Good morning. This is House Talk with Wally Kerr. I'm your host, Dave McKay. Good morning, Wally.
Good morning, Dave.
How are you doing?
I'm great this morning. Got my coffee ready to go and spend some great time with you. Hopefully helping our listeners today learn a little bit more about real estate.
Absolutely fantastic. We have a couple of good topics this morning. As always, we jump right into how the market's doing. Give me a real quick overview of what you see this week.
There's a big decision coming up, Dave, and that is the Fed's decision as to what they're going to do with the Fed's rate. So interest rates have already adjusted in the market's perspective of what is the Fed going to do next. They're trying to beat inflation. We talk about that on every show as we're in here every week, right?
Yes.
So got to get rid of inflation. It hurts. It stings, doesn't it? But it just continues to be more robust than what they want it to be. They're doing their best to keep there from being a recession. They don't want to shut down the economy.
No.
And they know if they raise the rates too fast, that it could lead into a recession. So they're very carefully. I respect what the Fed is trying to do. It's a little out of control with the way interest rates have gone up. And that's coming up this next week. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Let's keep it in perspective. How about the most simple word someone could hear? If you want to buy a home, the time to do is now, because the Fed is, I've used the word resolute. It's the best word I could think of to use is they are resolute in saying we are going to continue raising the Fed's rate, which will lead to an increase in long-term mortgage rates.
Okay.
So if I could find a home I want to buy, I may have thought I was going to buy this summer, but boy, if I could find one, I would buy one right now because rates are going to go up. The inventory will probably begin to dwindle. It's pretty level right now. There's about as many homes being sold as are being listed right now. But when the kids get out of school, it's a time when a lot of parents would like to move the kids is when school is out, and that's typically the busiest part of the season. So there's not as much for sale right now as there probably will be this summer. I would recommend if you have a home and you're thinking of selling, home values are still very good. There is limited supply. I would definitely consider selling if you want top dollar right now. And if you're a buyer and you don't want rates to be higher and you'd prefer to have a lower interest rate, which I think we all would,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Then if I could find the home I wanted, I would not wait to purchase.
Now, you just mentioned timing, and that was the question I was going to ask you. So what happens when we find our dream home? It's for sale. I wasn't ready to buy yet, but that's my dream home, and that's the home that is going to make my wife happy. And we all know, happy wife, happy life. So
right.
I need to figure out how to get myself into that home. I wasn't really ready for the move. How do I get ready to move? What do I do in that situation?
There's a lot to do, isn't there?
Yes.
Especially when it comes as a surprise, but you know it happens a lot. Well, I had it happen on an open house I did about 5 to 6 weeks ago, and a wife walked in and said, my husband's out of town. I love a mid-century modern. This home was about 4,500 square feet, a very nice home with a pool. And she walked in and said, I've just wanted to see it. I probably will bring my husband back in a couple of weeks. Turned out they had an agent friend, and so the agent took them back. We're under contract on that home right now, and it happened exactly that way, Dave. So they walked in, saw it at open house, fell in love with the home, and now they were scrambling to get their current home kind of fixed up.
Sure.
Declutter,
yes.
Paint touch-ups, stain touch-ups inside the home, get the kids' rooms looking nice, get pictures taken. The owners agreed that the buyers could have 10 days to get their home ready to go on the market. A lot of owners don't want to wait 10 days for their home to go on the market. Sure. They want the buyer's home on the market immediately. So there is a lot to do. Most of the time, the question is, do I buy first? Or do I sell first? Well, it's hard to buy if you own a home.
Sure.
But you don't want to put your home for sale.
And not have something to live in.
And not have something to live in, not have a suitable replacement.
Yes.
So in this case, you've got a loan application to do. You've got to lock an interest rate. How important would you think locking an interest rate would be in this current economy?
Extremely important.
Yeah, really volatile, right?
Yes, like right now and not wait another week.
Boy, I sure wouldn't, especially with the Fed's decision coming up. Some people can take a bridge loan. And so let's divert here a minute. Let's just take a separate road here.
You mentioned that before.
Okay,
you briefly chatted before, but you need to refresh my memory on that.
So a bridge loan says that you can borrow against the equity in your current home.
Okay.
Let's make up some numbers real fast. You own a home and it's worth $350,000.
Okay.
And you only owe $200,000 on it. So you have $150,000 equity.
Yes.
You can go to your bank. It's typically an in-house bank loan and say, I'd like to take a bridge loan and borrow against the equity in my home. They send an appraiser out. If you have good credit and income, normally that appraisal might come in a little higher than actually what market value is.
Okay.
Because the bank wants to loan you money. You're a good credit risk. They make money by doing that, and they should. That's fair, right?
Yes.
So you have $150,000 equity. You can borrow 80% of that on a bridge loan, which is $120,000. Yes. That gives you down payment and closing cost money. And maybe you need some of that money to do some fix-ups on the home you're going to buy, or maybe you want to take the full 120 and buy this home. Now, on a bridge loan, what this indicates is I still own my current home. I'm going to borrow against the equity in my home.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to go buy this new home using that equity. You got 3 payments now. You got your original payment on your home.
Yes.
You got the payment on the bridge loan. And then you're using that money for the down payment on the new home. So you're hopping into the new home and you've got a payment on that. So you want to get rid of the bridge loan pretty quick, right? Are
there any penalties to paying that off? Or is that just something that as soon as I sell my existing home, that needs to go away? I need to pay that off.
Great question. But you think so quickly when we're doing our show together because you always have really good questions. So a bridge loan is typically an interest-only loan. You're not paying any principal. Let's set up how this would work, okay?
Okay.
Now, on a bridge loan, I should add, it's typically for a 6-month or a 1-year term, and you can choose to pay the interest on the bridge loan monthly, or you can pay it at the end of 6 months. Now, that's a massive amount of interest at the end of 6 months.
Sure.
So here's what you do. Let's set up a super, super easy example. So you have a home that's worth $300,000. You owe $150,000. You have $150,000 equity. You're going to borrow 80% of that on a bridge loan, so you're borrowing $120,000.
Yes.
Let's say the new home that you bought is $450,000.
Okay.
So you go in and you take $100,000 for down payment. You keep the other $20,000 for closing costs and maybe a few updates that you want. You buy this home for $450,000. You put $100,000 down. You now have a mortgage for $350,000.
Yes.
On the new home. We take your current home and put it on the market, and if it's worth $300,000, and that's a really good price range right now in the metro.
Okay.
We may, if that's worth $300,000, we may sell that for $310,000, $315,000, $320,000.
Okay.
Now what you're going to do is pay off the remaining $150,000 balance on your home because we knew you owed $150,000.
Yes.
And then you borrowed $120,000 on a bridge. So we sell your home, you pay off those loans. Now your first mortgage is gone. You've paid off your bridge loan. Now you have the payment on your new property, and you didn't have to sell your home first before you bought the new one.
And I might have a little extra money in my pocket.
You might have.
If we got full price, or
a little extra money left over.
A couple of bidders on it, even went up a little bit. We sold it for the $310,000 or $320,000.
Now remember, in this case, where this is the caveat, you have to be able to afford to do that financially, right?
Sure.
Not everybody can afford to do a bridge, but it is an option.
Okay.
Look how much time we just spent there on bridge loan and doing a loan application and locking an interest rate. Now guess what? You walked in, you went into this house on open house, you saw it come up online, you loved it. You've got to do inspections. We've got an appraisal. You've got to get the inspection repairs negotiated. The seller's got to get the repairs taken care of. You've got to book movers, and you need to sell your current home. So your life just kind of got turned upside down.
Yes.
So moving this fast requires having a plan to sell every home that we list for sale for our owners. You need your equity. Okay, and you may have to have your home sell before you're able to buy. So, an agent's got to have, Dave, a written plan that assures that a home's going to sell.
Sure.
Otherwise, you can lose time and money, your inspection money, your appraisal money. It's stressful when you're trying to sell your home and allow showings to go on. Dave, this is why I'm here, is to reduce the stress. Our segment today was called How to Buy and Sell with Less Stress. So let me lay that out for you, because that's what I'm here for, is to direct the sale and timing of your home. I'm going to run through this one really fast. Dave, we just launched what's called a certified pre-owned program. So if you've got a pre-owned home, you're living in a home that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years old.
Okay.
Our pre-owned program, certified pre-owned program, minimizes the common pitfalls and deal breakers that make a home sale fall through. When you sign a contract with a buyer on your home, the last thing you want to do is hear that it's going to fall through, that the deal is going to bust. So we've launched our pre-owned program. This heads off the issues that cause the most heartache or bust a deal. So our pre-owned homes are thoroughly pre-inspected by a licensed home inspector before being placed on the market. This helps minimize undiscovered problems that might otherwise delay or even kill the transaction. And it also gives you the opportunity and time to get ahead of any issues. So we hire a home inspector and they come out and do a comprehensive inspection of the home.
And we talked about that last week.
We did. And we had a home inspector in.
We noticed if there's an issue with the roof or the HVAC system, something I didn't plan for, but now we're putting that plan in place that, hey, if we need to get this taken care of, we can do that. And that's going to reduce stress and the time on getting it sold.
That's the most important thing you just said was plan for. Plan for. Nobody plans for structural issues.
Sure.
Nobody plans on having to replace a roof because the roof is worn out. Mm-hmm. You know, insurance will cover storm damage. But when you've got a roof and you didn't get any hail for 20 years and the roof shingles just wore out,
sure.
Unfortunately, the insurance company doesn't go replace those for you. So we're trying to plan with our homeowners like you to make sure that they don't end up with considerable expenses that they had not planned on. That's why we do this inspection up front, is to identify any major issues and get those solved. Do the inspections, find the issues quickly, because otherwise, when you're negotiating seller and buyer during the midst of a transaction, when inspection issues come up and things are found that need to be fixed, if you're the seller, you got a buyer that either says, fix it and fix it now, give me the money to fix it, and oh, wow, we can't get an estimate because we can't get someone out here because contractors are so busy. So I think it's going to cost $1,000 to fix it maybe, but I want you to give me $1,500 just in case.
Yes.
So I've got enough money to go fix this. And as the seller, you're saying, this isn't so great for me.
No, and you have to put a value to that, maybe I have to give them $1,500 so I can just move the process along and get into my dream home that I saw, and all of a sudden I want to move into so quickly. So that's frustration.
It is. You can pay contractors to do a rush job and get them to put other jobs behind, but you're always going to pay them more money, right?
Sure.
Okay. So the buyer might cancel the contract, and that's the worst of all of this. Let's say they do inspections, something major comes up, it's structural, maybe they don't like termites, it's heat and air, whatever it is, and the buyer just says, I'm going to exercise my right in the Oklahoma purchase contract. I've done my inspections, and I don't believe this is the right house for me. So they back out, they get their earnest money back, which is what the Oklahoma contract says they can do.
Okay.
Now your home has a stigma that it's back on the market again. And I've had other agents say, why is that house back on the market? Is there something wrong? Maybe you look online and you see a home that goes under contract in 3 or 4 days. Mm-hmm. And then 2 weeks later, it comes back up. Now it doesn't sell for a week or 10 days. And you're thinking, I wonder why it fell through and if there's an issue. And that's just not what any seller wants a buyer to think about their home. So you put the house back on the market. Now, if we came up with a problem and you chose not to fix it, as your realtor, I look and say, Dave, we actually have to go disclose that.
Okay.
You've got an issue, and you have to be honest with the buyer. So do you want to spend the money now, or do you want to disclose this and say that you haven't fixed it yet? Would you agree that most buyers would say, well, why aren't you fixing that? Do you not care about your home, and why are you not fixing that item? So do you see why doing a pre-inspection on a property, this is part of our certified pre-owned program, is we get an inspector out, let's determine if we have any major issues, and let's deal with those before we put the house on the market.
And as a buyer, I might also look at that and say, why did they let that get to that point? Why did they not have their HVAC serviced in 10 years?
Right.
What other problems could there be? Why did they not check their roof, and now it needs a new roof? And we live in Oklahoma. Come on, there's hailstorms every year. They could have been out there 4 months ago, but they didn't check it in 10 years.
I agree with you. I think that many buyers want to feel like the home they're purchasing has been really well cared for and that the owners have been very attentive about the condition.
So get that inspection.
Agreed. Sometimes people run from termites, again, structural issues. We've had some customers mentioned a couple of weeks ago that just didn't know they had an issue, and at the very end found out they had a major structural issue and just lost the home they wanted. They would have loved to have known about that up front. Do you know that's the main reason, Dave, that we have launched this certified pre-owned program, is to better service our customers and make sure that pitfalls are avoided. We're the only realtor in the metro doing this new program, and we designed it, and we've trademarked it. as a pre-owned program, and this is to help our owners make sure that what they're selling, that they know that there aren't any problems, and they're not going to get into a big match with the buyers and a big face-off on, hey, why didn't you know about this and why didn't you fix it?
It's a plan, it's a roadmap, and when you stay on course, things go smoothly, and that will help the process go smoothly. That's great.
Let's find the potential issues up front or any deal breakers, but there's much more to the program, too. It's not just an inspection. We're doing an upfront title search to avoid closing delays. Title is the history to the property.
Yes.
So we're looking for mortgages that haven't been released by previous mortgage holders, deeds that were filed incorrectly, previous probate, foreclosure, bankruptcy, or divorce proceedings that could affect
I
title.
wouldn't have thought about that.
So sometimes a step gets missed.
Sure.
Back when, you remember the days back even in the 80s and after the big mortgage mess in 2006, 7, and 8, foreclosures were being done so fast that sometimes a step would get missed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes a title problem. So in the process of selling and buying a home, that comes back up again, and that can delay a closing. We're looking to kibosh and fix that up front by doing an upfront title search.
Yes.
We also have a home warranty plan that we buy for the seller and buyer. This can help a seller with items that they didn't know were a problem. So now that once they've got a warranty plan on, that warranty plan may fix some of those items.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's say the air conditioner quits during the listed period, during the time the home is under contract.
Oh,
that
wow,
home
that would
warranty
be a bummer.
that would be an expensive repair, of course, if it just quits and needs to be replaced. It can take care of unplanned expenses, and it also gives peace of mind for the buyer after they make the purchase. So we buy a warranty plan that covers both the seller and the buyer so that both of them are covered during the listing period and after the buyer's bought the home.
Nice peace of mind.
Good peace of mind, and we're going to extend that with what we call our buyback guarantee.
Okay.
Our buyback guarantee says for up to 2 years after closing, if the buyer feels that they didn't buy the right property, that we're willing to go back and buy that home back or sell it for free so long as they make a subsequent purchase through our firm. So our buyback guarantee gives buyers a lot of peace of mind that if they move in and it just wasn't quite the right home, they didn't realize the traffic was going to be as bad as it was to drive across town to work, the schools didn't quite work out for the kids, maybe the neighbor next door isn't just their best friend in the world, they can go back and exercise the right on our buyback guarantee to where we'll buy it back or sell it for free. And again, one of our conditions is they need to go back and make a subsequent purchase through us.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Our customers do love that.
That's awesome.
The other thing we throw in with the certified pre-owned program is interactive virtual tours.
I love this.
Well, home buyers love them too. So the first viewing of the house today, Dave, doesn't take place at the property anymore.
We have this thing called the internet.
Have you used that before? Have you found that?
www.clickwallyshomes.com. No, that's not. It's wallyhasthebuyers.com, by the way. But yes, you're right. I will go out and just start searching. And we've said this before. You used to have to take people out and they might go look at 15 homes. They might go look at 20 homes. Now I can look at those 20 homes online. I can eliminate down to 10. We might be looking at 6 homes instead of going out and looking at 20.
That's why pictures are so important too.
Yes.
Really, really good pictures. So people are pre-selecting what they want to take a look at. Here's an interesting stat. Zillow tells us that 61% of buyers said they wished more listings had 3D tours.
Huh.
And would you believe that 46% of millennial buyers said that they'd actually be confident making an offer on a home that they toured virtually?
I can believe that. There's so many things you can do online. And if it's done right, if the 3D tour and all the pictures are done right, you can get a pretty good look at it.
I agree.
I mean, the auto business, Carvana, people buy cars right off the internet and ship to their home without going to a dealership. Why not just get online and buy a house?
I've bought 5 cars off of the internet.
Really?
Would you believe that? I bought 5 off the internet and never had a bad experience.
Wow.
So we know this. A home is far more likely, Dave, to sell faster and for more money because it's a safe bet over and above buying another listing inside the marketplace.
Sure.
And that's why we created the program, was to try to make our listing stand out with pre-inspections, title searches done, home warranty programs, the buyback guarantee. It's just, we feel like it's probably the most beneficial program to sellers inside the metro, and we call it our certified pre-owned home program.
You're right. You have some wonderful programs that really put your mind at ease when you are making the biggest purchase, the biggest investment in your life, you can't be so flippant about that. There's a lot of money at stake, and you want to do it the right way. You want the plan, you want a roadmap, and you want someone you can trust.
They also want to know their home is going to be sold. So the last thing we put together this spring, going into the springtime, because we know it's going to be busy, is 5 different options for every home seller we talk to.
Okay.
How about if I spend just 2 or 3 minutes and tell you about
I want to
these?
hear these.
So we've put together an investor pool to immediately obtain offers for your home from a pool of 62 investors that are buying nationwide. They're bidding against each other for desirable homes that they're going to buy and hold. So most of these investors will buy them and rent them and placing their money in real estate and receiving the rental income, and then they'll wait until the day that the market's as good or better, and they'll turn around and sell. You don't even have to put your home on the market. And if somebody wants to contact me and wants to access our investor pool, I'll walk you through the steps as a homeowner, but it doesn't require a signed listing agreement.
Okay.
But it does need an established price and my permission to take it to the investors.
Sure.
Okay. Number 2 is offering your home to our buyers in waiting. You've heard me say for years, Wally has the buyers.
Yes.
I've got people waiting for the right homes to come on the market so that they can make a purchase. And Dave, they'd like to do it right now before rates go up more. As of this morning, again, just under 800 buyers on my website searching for the right home. Those offers will typically be higher than the investor offers. I've got people waiting right now. Before you list your home for sale with anybody else, do me a favor and just text or call me at 330-3000 and ask me if I've got a buyer for your home. I'll go straight into my database and match up what you own with the buyers we've got and see if we don't already have a buyer. You may not even have to put it on the market, have to allow showings, have to tidy up your home, prepare for pictures, wake the kids up, remove the pets. We can make that a lot easier with the vetted buyers that we've already got in our database.
Okay.
Here's 3 more options. We have a single investor that will purchase your home on behalf of a buyer, and then ultimately that buyer is going to lease purchase your home from the investor for 12 to 18 months, and they'll purchase it from the investor once they meet their requirements.
Okay.
How does the investor benefit? They benefit because they're locking in a lease amount with this person that's going to lease purchase the home. Could probably charge them a down payment too.
Sure.
Okay. And they're going to lock in a purchase price that may be higher than market value. So this single investor will buy a home. Let's say you were selling your home today. Dave, you sell it to the investor, you're done. The investor is the one who goes in and does the lease purchase with someone that wants to lease purchase that property.
Okay.
Option number 4 is to take the more public approach that most people are more familiar with. We'll introduce your home to the market, to MLS, to the Zillow, to Realtor.com, and the local real estate community. We'll set deadlines, promote competition, market well, do open houses, great pictures, video tours. That often captures the highest price and the best terms for any home seller. It's the public approach. Takes a little bit more work on your part.
More emotional buyers, not just for an investment. You have the buyers that really want to be in a certain neighborhood.
Absolutely.
That's their dream home, and they're willing to pay a little bit more for that. I would be.
And fight for it.
Sure, absolutely.
The inventory is low enough. You asked me a couple of weeks ago and said, are there really any multiple offers still going on? And the truth is, with the inventory as low as it is, there are still multiple offers coming in on properties.
Okay.
Let's leverage that to get a better offer for the seller to where they put more money in pocket.
Yes.
Often enough to pay our fee and then over and above that. And then the last option is what you've heard me say for years is I have a guaranteed home sale program.
Yes, love it.
In the unlikely event that your home doesn't sell in an agreed period, I'll step in and buy your home for cash at a price we agree to up front. No gimmicks. It's straight up. I think some of my biggest advocates have been those that have participated in our guaranteed sale program. It's simple. I walk in and someone says, Wally, how about if you just buy my home today? I may make them an offer up front. If they say, gosh, that's just not as much as I wanted for my home, what are my options? And my response is, tell you what, let's go put your home on the market for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks or 60 days, whatever that number is. And if it doesn't sell, you can still have my cash offer on the property. That's your safety net. But in the meantime, let's put it on the market and see if we can get full retail for it.
Sure.
I always will offer as much as I can for a home without actually taking a chance on losing money. We like to be as fair as we can with our customers. And we do have a wholesale side, which just says, would we go in like an investor and just buy a property? And the answer is yes. On some homes that need a lot of work, we would consider doing that.
Sure.
We've got a lot of options available. If someone would like to know more, they can text me. Most people would rather text. Not everybody. I've got clients that say, I prefer the personal phone call, but really important to understand that people don't want to feel threatened. And so if they would like to text, I'm absolutely delighted to text back and forth. Our show ends here at 8 o'clock. If you text me during the show, I'll get back to you pretty quickly afterward, certainly by the end of the day, and I'd be delighted to help you with anything that I can.
330-3000. You can text any question you have to Wally. Okay, tell me, what should you know when buying a new home right now in 2023?
I think there are some things that need to be considered when buying a brand new home. So let's talk about those a little bit.
Okay.
Buying a home is always a great investment. That's been the American dream, especially for young parents who maybe have small children who crawl around on the carpet. Maybe it's grandparents who want to buy a home, and they're buying a home and they're moving from California to live closer to the kids and the grandkids here. Yeah, the new home, they haven't had pets in it, and the carpet's cleaner.
Sure.
Of course, you can replace the carpet in a home, right, if you buy an existing home. But, yeah, it's hard to beat that new home smell. It's never been lived in. The roof shingles are newer, and they're going to be insured anyway with a full replacement coverage policy. The appliances are newer. The heat and air is newer. It's all going to last longer. There are definite benefits to buying. In some cases, you get to pick some colors. If you're going to build a custom home, it takes a little bit longer. And that is maybe one of the drawbacks today, is that with the supply chain shortage, whether it is cosmetics, whether it is food, there's still a supply chain shortage. So it does take a little longer to build a home today. So we'll talk about that in maybe being one of the cons. But let's talk about the other good stuff. You can design your own home. You can build your own home. Once you build it, you move in. And even though there's probably not going to be any problems, most builders will give you a 1-year builder's warranty. And so between picking colors, brand new appliances, brand new heat and air, roof shingles are new, it's got that new home smell, nobody's had pets in on the carpet if your kids are going to be crawling around, or your grandkids, the opportunity to design your own home, there's a lot of pluses. And I think that's why you see so many brand new homes under construction right now.
So what's really cool about it, you just talked about a couple of the different ideas. My wife is going to go through and make this kitchen exactly how she wants it. And maybe in the little sports room, I want just tile floor in there. Or maybe I want this kind of color on the walls, or however, we get to make it our own. That's great. But what could be a drawback or a con to having to buy a new home?
So it used to be that the fastest builders could build a home in, let's say, 4 or 5. I mean, I know there's one production builder here in the metro that says they could build a home in 90 days. I'm not a big believer in that. I feel like you just what the radio audience couldn't see is you just winced.
Well, that would make me really nervous.
There you go.
Make me nervous because I don't know about the stuff that I can't see. Did it get done the way it's supposed to be done?
Yeah. So you begin to think, can you really build me for what I'm going to pay you at today's prices, which are much higher? Are you really going to build me a quality home in 90 days? And I think that's why you just reacted the way you did, is, hey, I want a quality home. So what I started to say was normally in about really 5 to 6 months, a lot of builders could build a home. And I just don't think that most of them can pull that off today. Because of supply chain, they may be able to get the home 96% done, but then they're waiting for trim or fascia or specific appliances to come in, or maybe there's not enough sod for a backyard. Somebody's got dogs and they don't want to move in, and it just be a mud bath after an Oklahoma rainstorm. So I would say that probably the typical builder in the metro is going to say anywhere from 8 to maybe as many as, for a really nice custom home, maybe 16 to 18 months to build. Okay. So let's equate that to what you just asked me. What would be the possible drawback for that? Maybe somebody says, I'm fine with that. So when you bought last, Dave, do you remember this thing called a loan lock?
Possibly.
So if you went to a mortgage company today and said, hey, I'm going to buy a brand new home, and you say, yeah, hey, I'd like to get into these interest rates before they go up. And the builder says, well, is the home finished? Can we go ahead and do a contract and close? And your response is, well, no.
No, it's a year away.
And the mortgage company says, so what you're asking us to do is speculate what interest rates are going to be a year down the road. And what's your answer to that?
I don't want to do that. I want where they are now.
I want to lock a rate now. So
Yes.
what if rates a year from now are 7 3/4?
That's going to cost me a lot more money.
Cost you a lot more money. So the loan lock is a problem. Let's not say a problem. There's a fix to everything, but that's a challenge. So I can tell you that if rates today are 6 1/4, let's say, let's just use that number because that's going to be pretty close based on what I've seen this week, about 6 1/4. If you've got a good credit score, at least 640. And if you're borrowing, probably at least $200,000. I don't loan money, so I'm just guessing here,
Sure.
but I've seen some of those quotes. There's just not a mortgage company, Dave, that's going to go give you and speculate that a year from now. I mean, the Fed can hardly figure out what their actions are going to be over the next 3 to 4 months. So that's a possibility, is that today you can afford the home you want, whether it's 200, 400, 600,000, based on rates today being 6 1/4. But are you going to be able to afford that same home if rates a year from now are 7.5 or 7 3/4 or 7 1/4 or 8%? So that's a little bit tricky.
And what is or should I say, when is the determined value of a new home complete? Is that when the house is complete, or is that when I decide to buy it?
The truth is, an appraisal will be done typically when the home is contracted for. So today, let's say you're going to go build a custom home.
Okay.
What will happen is they'll send an appraiser out, and the appraiser will determine it based on comparable sales in the neighborhood. They're going to look at what the other homes have sold for, comparable to what you're going to build. Now, here's what's good for you. You might go in and agree to buy a home, and it's going to cost you $325,000 to build today. And if it continues like it was these last 2 years, by the time that home is done, it may appraise for $360,000. Guess what? You locked in $325,000. You don't have to give $360,000 for it. You get to buy it for $325,000. You locked in your price, and hopefully what you did was you also did something you mentioned a minute ago, went right over the top, and some people might have missed it, but you can go lock in a rate. Now let's talk about how that might be, Dave.
Okay.
Again, let's go back to our example. Rates are 6 1/4. This lender might look and say, you know what? We're willing to speculate with you here, Dave. Tell you what, we'll give you a rate when you close as long as it's not more than 12 months. So you better close it in 12 months or we're not going to give you this rate, but we'll give you 7. And you might look and say, wow, this is kind of Russian roulette. If rates go down, I might be paying 7. But if they go above 7, I win. So a lot of the mortgage companies have what's called a float down option. You ever heard of that?
I think I have. So we can actually get the lower percentage rate?
You will typically, with a lot of lenders, they'll let you float down one time. So let's make this super clear. You go in today, you write a contract with the builder, you agree that you're going to buy a home for $325,000. Rates today are 6 1/4. You sit down with the lender. You say, I can't close for a year. They say, tell you what, as long as you close within this 1 year period, we'll give you 7 now. But Dave, we'll give you one float down option. So if rates end up going up and they go to above 7 1/4, but then the economy gets better and they come back down to 6 3/4, we're going to let you lock that 6 3/4 one time.
Okay.
A float down option, just in case rates get more beneficial. And they'll give you that one time, and you have to exercise that like within 10 days or 2 weeks before closing to make that happen. That's a good thing.
Sure.
That can help save you money.
I'm going to remember that.
Yeah, the float down option is probably a lesser known item inside the marketplace. So here are a couple of other things besides timing. We talked about shortages in materials are still a big issue. You might say, well, yeah, but they're going to finish my home one day.
Sure.
Here's my response. What we just talked about was the lender said, Dave, close it within a year and you can have this lower rate. What happens if the builder can't finish the home and doesn't get the materials and you lose that float down option, that lower rate? So that's a little bit of a risk, okay? You're paying every bit of market value today when you buy a new home. The builders are aware that they could charge a premium for homes for sale today. A lot of them don't negotiate as much. This is where I can help you in negotiating. If you're considering buying a new home and you want good guidance, one of the best things about the real estate industry and a realtor broker like myself is most every builder in the metro loves to have our involvement because we keep the customer informed. We take them out to the job site if the builder will approve it so we can look at the construction. They want us to be there with them in most cases. They don't want the customer just roaming around on their own. And they pay a real estate fee for us to be involved so that they don't have to babysit the customer throughout the process.
Boy, we're pests.
Yeah.
Home buyers are
we
pests.
are. They'd rather that we just sit back, that you go spend your $325,000 to build a home and that you leave them alone and that they call you when it's done and you go close. So even the builders who have representatives that sit inside their open houses come to our offices all the time and say, please bring your clients through. We would love to work with you and it won't cost your client a penny extra to have you involved. And that's because they want us to take care of the clients, be involved, stay involved in the process. That takes some of the pressure off the builder. And what's also good, Dave, is we can typically help someone negotiate for everything they might not get on their own. The builder's representative truly is sitting there to represent the builder, not the buyer. So we can be involved with most every builder at no additional cost to the buyer, to someone listening to our program, advocate in the buyer's interest, and help them through the entire construction process.
So I could also see they just finished the home and you're about to move in, but I was supposed to have this accessory over here a certain way and it's not, or these cabinets were supposed to be a certain kind of cabinet and the little finishings or the handles on all of them weren't what I wanted or ordered, and there's a couple little things like that, and I might have like a list of things that I feel like just didn't get done. How do you resolve that? Or as the buyer, how do I go to the builder, which I think would be kind of a pain to have to go and say, hey, you just built this house for me, it's great, but here's a couple of things you didn't do?
I think most of the builders are pretty good about that. I think the big one is having someone in your corner for what we call the punch list. Yeah, that's not just where you go through and look and see if the door pulls are right or if this was done right. The punch list is walking through, determining everything that's not satisfactory to the buyer. Let's face it, most of the builders do a pretty good job on having the home finished and ready to go. But I get pretty picky with that punch list, and the people on my team get picky, and we take a roll of blue tape, and we're looking in cabinet doors. In fact, I really think people should pay for a home inspector on new construction. But yeah, I mean, the little stuff and things not being done right, that can be uncomfortable for someone to deal with, and that's part of why we get involved, is so that we can help negotiate that for our customers and make sure things are done to their expectations.
So home builders know that, though. They know that, let's be frank, if you're spending a year building this home and it looks immaculate, there's always going to be a couple little things that just fall through the cracks, so to speak. So I'm sure that they're accustomed to that when I go through, hey, here's a couple of things. I just need you to come back next Tuesday and finish these up. Oh, okay. They're probably pretty agreeable to that.
Boy, that's a
or is that a loaded
question? A loaded question, and I'll tell you why. The builders are moving really fast right now, and they're building homes as fast as they can. And I have certainly had experiences in the past where the builder says, hey, we'll come back and get this taken care of after closing. I had one builder that didn't finish the punch list for 14 months after closing. At that time, the buyers were so upset, they were spreading his name around town and saying, do not use this guy. I'm not going to use any names.
Sure.
But some of them are great about getting the punch list items done, and some are not. And so that's where our influence inside the transaction can make a big difference. I mean, let's face it. These builders would like me to sell 10 homes for them. But if I have an unpleasant experience on number 2, I'm not going to promote and support that builder without them getting the punch list done. So I use some leverage there and just say, I sell a lot of homes, and so I really need you to get this done, so I'll continue to support you as a builder and bring you more clients.
I am thinking about selling my home, and Oh, I've been in the house for 10 years, but the home is 18 years old. And so there might be a couple of things I need to do because now I'm competing against new homes, which have the new car smell. So what are some of the things that I might need to look at and I don't need to look at?
Okay. I think this will be a fun topic for our listeners. So, first of all, with fewer homes for sale, buyers are a little less picky. But remember that if you're selling a home today, Dave, you want the buyer to have their own down payment. Of course, they've got to have that right.
Yes.
Now, they could ask you to pay for closing costs. So do you want the buyer to pay the closing costs, their own closing costs, or do you want to pay them?
I want them to pay.
You want the buyer to pay them.
Sure.
So if the buyer pays their down payment and closing costs, part of the question is, will they have money to go update a home? I've seen this market in a hotter seller's market the last 2 or 3 years where you could actually sell a home that had Formica countertops in the kitchen. Yeah, you just gave me a surprised look like everybody does because most people expect granite today, right?
Yes.
So just simply put, if there's 2,000 homes on the market in Edmond today, do you have to have granite to compete with the other homes that are for sale? Probably so. But if there's only 182 homes for sale in Edmond, you can probably get away with a few things. So updating is important for any home. Let's talk about what maybe you don't have to worry about doing.
Okay.
Things maybe you wouldn't do. When you try to decide whether you're going to update or not, you want to think about the price range the home is in, the market conditions, and how many homes you're competing with. Let's face it, if there's only 2 other homes you're competing with, probably don't have to do as much, right?
Sure, yes.
There's going to be more buyers and fewer homes for sale. And then how about competition in your area? Let me use a quick example. I sold a home in the Huntwick edition in Edmond about 15 years ago, and the home still had granite or just solid surface countertops in the kitchen. We identified that all the other homes in that neighborhood at that time, people had updated to granite. So the owners asked me and said, what do you think? Should we go in and spend $4,000, $4,500 for granite? We decided to do it because we needed to do that to compete with that market condition at that time.
Okay.
But today,
I get that.
There's so few homes for sale, probably don't need to go spend all that money. So let's talk about what not to do. The smaller the cosmetic flaw, doesn't need to be fixed. Okay, now if you've got a teenager, you know how this deal goes because I know you've got a teenager. Your son or your daughter goes in and showers, and they run the shower for 45 minutes, and it's like a steam sauna in there.
Yes. You don't know how close to home this hits.
But what does happen, as you know, is over 6 or 8 months, you begin to see the finish on the cabinets just begin to flake off. That's a problem. I would go in and either restain, refinish, or touch up for sure if it's flaking off. But if it scratches in the woodwork, no big deal. If your dog has been digging on a door because you lock it in a bedroom and it tears up the door, probably needs to be fixed. But the smaller the cosmetic issue like paint or stain, if it's not real noticeable and doesn't detract from the showing, I wouldn't worry about that. If it's going to be an objection when a buyer looks at the home, probably need to do something about it.
Yes.
One of the things I see the most are just the number of wires. So whether it is surround sound in a living room, whether it's the old direct TV dish on the side of the house with wires dangling off the side of the house, there's a lot of people that don't know what coax is and what phone cables are. I think wiring is something that scares people. Looks like a safety issue.
Sure.
So wires hanging out of a box, cover plates that are missing with exposed wiring, it looks dangerous to buyers. That's a really easy fix and doesn't cost much money. You get your wire cutters and start snipping those. Now, don't hold me responsible here. I'm not advocating that you go get your wire cutters.
Well, Wally told me just to head to the backyard and start clipping everything.
Start snipping away, so I'd be very careful about that. But that looks like a safety issue.
Yes.
And so that concerns people. I get asked all the time, should I paint the garage? And really, my opinion is people have made their decision to buy long before they get to the garage.
Sure.
So I'm thinking more about interior things. Now, you said updating compared to remodel. So let's talk about some things that maybe people would do. I can tell you with great confidence that now brushed brass is in style today. That's the brass, but it looks like you've scratched it with a piece of woolite.
Okay, yes.
And it's got a rougher finish. Now, brushed brass is in, but the real shiny brass, like the fireplace doors they did for 20 years.
Yes.
And just the brass doorknobs, those things are out. and those can be replaced for a pretty affordable cost. How about wallpaper, Dave? Do you have any wallpaper in your home today?
I don't, but I have lived in a home that had wallpaper, and it looked a little dated. So does it really depend on how the wallpaper looks, like the actual style of it, or?
It can.
Okay.
It can. I recently closed a home for $1.7 million, and it had a very, very classy wallpaper in the formal dining room and wallpaper in the powder bath. Real classy, went along with the home, but that was the only wallpaper inside the home. I'm not going to advocate for stripping all wallpaper out of every home, but generally speaking, if you walk into builder homes today, you're going to see very few homes by builders that have wallpaper in them. And that's because the builders know what people want, right? So a couple of other things. Let's say, and here's what's interesting too. You might not have thought about this, Dave, but if you're marketing a home that's occupied, it's different than marketing a home that's vacant. Because a home that's 20 or 30 or 40 years old that's vacant has a tendency to show all its flaws. It's got the old phone jacks in it.
Yes.
It's got phone jacks mounted on the baseboards. Sometimes it will have alarm contacts hanging off the windows because they're not glued anymore. Sometimes it will just have scrapes on the woodwork to where when you walk in, you think, wow, this home is 40 years old and it looks kind of banged up. So I think as the home is older, if it's marketed vacant, you probably have to do a little more. Give you another example. If you ever walked in a home and noticed that maybe the cover plate around the electrical outlet is white, but the plug part in the middle is ivory.
Because something happened to that plate and they replaced it, or they put a like a vanity type plate on there and then went back and just switched it out with something generic.
Right. If you're in the main room where people walk in and get their first impression in the living room, I always recommend trying to match those up to where they're not mismatched.
Sure.
What you certainly probably don't want is a white cover plate and a black outlet in the middle of it. But we see a lot of mismatch in whites and ivories. That's a pretty affordable fix for people to take care of that can matter. And then I think one of the big ones, you remember when we looked at homes years and years ago when you sold and we turned around and bought, Dave, you walk up on the porch, I'm fumbling around with the lockbox. What are you doing while you're standing on the front porch?
I'm looking around everything from just what kind of style the overall look, if things are faded or damaged at all, or am I appealed to it or am I not?
Perfect. First impressions, right?
Yes.
How does the front door look? How does the doorbell switch look? How does the landscaping look? Is it painted around the front porch, or does there rot around the doors? Okay, so I think those are things that are important. Wood rot also kind of concerns people. They might worry about mold, or they might just be concerned about the cost. So if I had some rotted wood, or if I needed to gussy my home up for curb appeal, let's face it, there's really three things that truly make a difference what a home is going to sell for. And that's going to be curb appeal. It should be very clean on the inside. I can't emphasize enough how clean makes such a difference to people. But it's these first impressions. Now I get in the door, I walk you in, and you're standing in the entryway. There again, what's that impression look like? So if somebody has to, go take pictures of your home and really scrutinize those. Stand back from the front door, take a picture, and then look at it as if you were looking at a selfie photo. What looks good here? What would I change? Now walk in your front door, take a picture. What looks good here? What would I change? And these are just the first impressions. You've got to put yourself in the shoes of the buyer.
And that affects, my attitude once I step inside the door. I might be 50% out the door or in, or if I love how it looks from the outside, you go in and you go, well, okay, and you're almost already selling yourself on why you love that house. If there's things wrong with it, you go inside and the house, the floor plan is great, it's clean, but now I'm trying to convince myself why I love it because I've already dissatisfied with the exterior. So I think that's half the battle right there, right on the doorstep.
Do you know that within 1 to 2 to 3 minutes, most people know whether it's the home for them or not? And that's why the first impressions are so important.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a couple other things. If you can take it down, like blinds that are torn up, curtains that are old and don't look great and are out of style, or shelving that's warped, maybe it's in the garage, I wouldn't fix that stuff. I'd just take it down.
Okay.
It is nice for a home to have blinds because people want to buy, and they do want privacy, but I wouldn't worry about things that can just be removed. I would just take them down. Like driveway cracks, I see a lot of those in some of our older neighborhoods. I wouldn't worry about cracks in driveways unless it's a tripping hazard. Some other good things to do. Here's two of the big ones. Flooring. Flooring's kind of a big ticket item. And if carpet's worn out or stained, or if wood floors are scratched, it's probably worth looking into doing something about flooring. You can offer an allowance, Dave, but it really never makes the same impression.
Sure.
You know, you want to walk in and fall in love with the home. I can't tell you how many hundreds of home buyers I've worked with who walk in and they suddenly get quiet. And you think, I really like this one. This one might be it. And they get really quiet. And you can tell that they're placing furniture when they come in. First impressions are everything. And the other thing I would say is, my last suggestion here would be neutralize personalized paint colors.
Okay.
Deep reds, bright oranges, whether you're a Sooner fan, an OSU fan, maybe you're a Tulsa fan. If you walk in builder homes, I always talk about builder homes because the builders know exactly what people want. They spend tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to study what people want. And then that's what they go build. And if you walk in builder homes today, they don't typically paint rooms bright colors. They don't put in wallpaper, and they don't put in the old shiny brass fixtures. So there are some things that homeowners can do that don't cost that much money, that aren't remodeling, but it's updating, like what you asked about at the first of this topic, that they can do at an affordable cost.
Staging and moving stuff in the particular areas, not just to cover up stuff, but I'm sure that you can take, as a seller, your existing furniture with the help of the right agent, which we'll ask that question in a minute too, will help to stage the furniture in a way that maximizes the space and really kind of opens it up. Can you do that? Does it mean a lot to move your furniture around and do that?
100%. I'm so glad you said that, because the last thing I didn't mention that I bet a lot of people figured I would say is decluttering. You may need to go get a storage unit, and that's okay. You want the rooms to look big. You don't want them to look small online. Let's face it, pictures are everything. Do you know people are touring homes online and they're just eliminating the homes they don't like right at the computer and deciding what they do want to go see?
Well, we did that. To be frank. Yes.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier because, I guess back in the day, you had to, before everyone can go online, you had to take people out to 15 to 20 homes. And now they come to you and say, well, I like this area, and these 5 homes I want to go see. That makes your job a little easier, I'm sure, when they've already looked online.
It does. Our buyers find homes, but I'll tell you this, we are always looking for off-market properties. These are properties that other agents don't know about and other buyers can't find. And a lot of those come through my guaranteed sale program. People call me and would like me to buy their home because they're moving out of state, buy their home because maybe they're moving down for financial reasons. Maybe they can't climb the stairs anymore. So buyers find the homes, and they do ask us about them, but we're also very, very proactive about helping people find homes they can't find on their own. I'll just finish by saying there are ways, if you've got a beautiful Disney mural on a bedroom wall that's awesome, like the one that you guys had in your house, it's very easy to market the home, and this is one of my tricks to say, seller will repaint the northeast bedroom if desired. And then that answers the buyer's objection.
Okay.
That's a little trick to where we don't have to go paint all that artwork that's done.
That's fascinating.
We don't always have to paint the colorful rooms.
Okay.
But neutral will always win out in the end. So if people need advice on, if they need guidance from me, my team members, if they need a staging consultation, if they need support on photo days so that we can be there, I'll just drop this in, Dave. We do virtual staging. I could take a vacant home, put virtual furniture in it, and make that home look like $1 million. Do you know, in many cases, I can make the home look better than if the homeowner left their furniture on the inside.
This is House Talk with Wally Kerr. It airs right here on KOKC every Saturday morning at 7 a.m. If you're thinking of making a move, you can text or call Wally at 405-330-3000 with the words, I want to sell. That's 330-3000. Text the words, I want to sell. Or you can just visit wallyhasthebuyers.com and get an estimated value for your home by texting your address, again, to 330-3000. You want to include the condition of your home, right? Basically 1 through 10 or so, and just say, hey, I think it's an 8.
Yeah, give me an idea on condition, and certainly if you've got a pool, a shop building, if you're newly remodeled, tell me that. Text that to 330-3000. You'll get an estimated value from me and no phone call.
You can hear replays of this show on Wally's YouTube channel, on his website, wallytalkshouses.com, or listen to the podcast platforms like Spotify, Podchaser, iHeartRadio, and again, soon you're going to be on the biggie, Apple Podcasts. Coming to Apple Podcasts. All right. Thanks for listening today. Join us again next Saturday morning at 7 a.m. This is House Talk with Wally Kerr. I'm your host, Dave McKay, on KOKC.